Before we get on with the podcast, I'd like to mention that I now have 3 books for sale on Kindle. Recommended Reading for the True Conservative, Bad Democrat, and now Evil Liberal. All available for $3.99 or through Kindle Unlimited. Now, on with the podcast.
lucky I made it here tonight, you know. I mean, this afternoon I got tied up. I got a checkup. I went to see our family doctor. Oh, I got a tough family doctor. He's tough, you know. And he told me if I keep smoking, I'll take 10 years off my life. If I keep drinking, another 10 years off my life. If I don't pay him his bill, I'll be dead by tomorrow. I don't know, I tell you, I don't get no respect for my family doctor or anyone else, you know. Even my friends. I mean, my friends tell me when I call them on the phone, I use a certain signal. Let it ring twice, hang up, and don't call back. I'll tell you, the trouble with me is I'm too easygoing, you know. I always end up on a short end. Like last week, Father's Day. I gave my wife money for her and the kids to buy me presents. And for $20, I got back a handkerchief and 2 pairs of socks.
Good morning. It's Monday, Music Monday, August the 10th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company, Liberal Fear, and music. All that and more when I get back. God, give us the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. Thank you. Now, Varney and Company.
Right now, Stuart, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, everyone. This is going to be a very big week for the markets and for politics. All the major averages are at record highs, and more primaries this week will show if the socialist surge has legs. That's where we start. Plenty of action in politics. Here we go. Francesca Hong is most famous for, at one time, wanting to cancel Thanksgiving, abolish prisons, and abolish the police. Well, she faces David Crowley in the Wisconsin Democrat gubernatorial contest tomorrow. How she does will tell us a lot about the strength of the socialist movement outside of some deep blue cities. Separately, Governor Newsom is in Michigan, meeting Abdul El Sayed. He's associating himself with El Sayed, saying he is also a lifelong insurgent who has always taken on the establishment. Okay, lots of politics. To the markets, investors waiting for the latest on consumer price inflation, the CPI due for release Wednesday. Stocks had a great run last week. The Nasdaq was up 5%. This morning, though, a small pullback. Dow, S&P, Nasdaq all in the red slightly. Treasury yields pretty steady, 4.67% on the 10. The 2-year, 4.22%. Last we checked, 4.23 now. Bitcoin coming in again in the mid-$60,000 range. You're at 64.8. The price of oil has been affected by war news. The president is taking a low-key approach to the war. He's slowly strangling the Iranian economy. But the Iranians, they've made a series of demands, including the U.S. pay compensation. Separately, Israel's Netanyahu has rejected the U.S. plan for disarming Hamas. It is a public split. The price of oil going up on all of this news, $79.42 per barrel. Gas still right at $4 a gallon. Diesel still well above $5. You're looking at $5.29 now. On the show today, is AOC running for president? She's not confirmed it, but she leads the field in a poll of possible Democrat nominees. Pete Buttigieg was second, Kamala Harris dead last. The WNBA in chaos. Star player Sophie Cunningham was clotheslined by Dijon Harrington. She was tossed out of the game. She later blamed her punishment on white privilege. It is Monday, August 10th, 2026. Varney and Company is about to begin.
And that was Varney and Company, non-profit news now. Back in a minute. Thank you. Many liberals operate on deeply ingrained patterns. They instinctively test our boundaries, push our emotional limits, and manipulate interactions because these are the strategies they've relied on for years. They don't always know why our calmness unsettles them, but they feel it. They sense the power, and it's unfamiliar. It's intimidating, and it introduces something they're not equipped to handle: our autonomy. Emotional detachment from their chaos also means we're no longer playing the emotional caretaker role. Liberals often expect others to manage their emotional states, to soothe them when they're upset, to validate them when they're insecure, and to praise them when they're needy. But when we stay calm, we're sending a different message. We're saying our emotions are our responsibility. That message cuts deep. It challenges the core dynamic that liberals build relationships around: the expectation of emotional servitude. Remaining calm also creates a mirror effect. In the quietness of our response, the liberal sees themselves more clearly. There's no reaction to hide behind, no emotional smoke to cloud the view, and what they see is often unsettling. They may become louder, more aggressive, or more erratic. This isn't because they're winning, it's because they're losing control. They're trying to provoke a reaction so they can regain the upper hand. But if we hold our ground, if we remain emotionally consistent, they run out of options. Their usual tools, blame, shame, intimidation, start to lose their edge. The moment we stop seeking a liberal's approval, their grip on us begins to dissolve. Liberals maintain control by conditioning others to constantly chase validation. They reward compliance with fleeting praise and punish independence with silence, criticism, or withdrawal. Every time this dynamic creates an emotional dependency where our self-worth becomes entangled with their reactions. They become the judge, the audience, the authority. But when we no longer seek their approval, when their opinion no longer defines our value, we disrupt that control mechanism. At its root, approval for the liberal is a tool. It's not given freely or as a reflection of our true worth. It's used strategically. They dangle it like a carrot, offering just enough to keep us engaged, to keep us hoping, to keep us tied to their opinion of us. This creates a cycle of emotional hunger. We start to shape our behavior around what they might praise, what they might accept. We minimize our needs, our voice, and the truth in order to preserve the connection. But the connection is conditional. It's not respect. It's leverage. And when we stop chasing it, when we decide that our worth doesn't come from them, we take back our autonomy. The shift doesn't happen all at once. It begins quietly, often internally. We start to notice that the praise we once craved now feels hollow. We start to see that their approval only comes when we abandon ourselves. And then, one day, something changes. We speak our mind without checking their reaction. We choose our peace over their praise. We realize that we're not afraid of their disapproval anymore. That moment may seem small on the outside, but internally, it's a psychological emancipation. We're breaking the bond that tethered our identity to their perception. Liberals are quick to sense when their approval no longer holds power. They test it immediately. They withdraw affection. They become cold. They criticize more harshly. This is not a coincidence. It's a strategy. They're trying to provoke fear, shame, or guilt in order to pull us back into the approval trap. But if we stay steady, if we choose truth over their favor, we begin to unravel their influence dependent on our need. Without that need, they are left with no mechanism of control. It's not that liberals want genuine connection. They want control, disguised as connection. When we seek their approval, we're handing them the script. We're letting them define our role, our lines, our emotional responses. But when we stop seeking it, when we choose self-connection instead, we stop playing the part. We write our own script. This doesn't just confuse them, it threatens them, because our independence reveals something they want to keep hidden, that they were never the source of our worth to begin with. They may retaliate with emotional withdrawal, criticism, or even smear campaigns. They will paint our newfound independence as selfishness, coldness, betrayal. But that's because they're losing their mirror. Liberals need others to reflect back a flattering version of themselves. If we're no longer seeking their approval, we're no longer playing that role. We're no longer protecting their fragile ego by sacrificing truth. And this threatens the entire foundation of their identity. This shift also impacts our own psychology in profound ways. When we stop seeking approval, we start listening to ourselves. We begin to hear our own voice more clearly. We make decisions based on our values, not their expectations. We begin to notice how much of our energy was spent managing their moods, deciphering their reactions, trying to earn a smile that never lasted. And we begin to realize that peace has always been an option. It just required letting go of the need to be seen by someone who never truly saw us. Stopping the pursuit of approval doesn't mean becoming emotionally detached or indifferent. It means recognizing manipulation for what it is. It means choosing authenticity over appeasement. Liberals are threatened by this choice because it reveals their dependency on others. If we no longer need them to feel worthy, they are no longer central. If they are no longer elevated, they are no longer powerful. And for someone who defines themselves by how much control they have over others, this is terrifying. You reclaim the power they once borrowed from your insecurity. You closed the loop they depended on to feel superior. When their validation becomes irrelevant to your sense of self, their tactics begin to lose effectiveness. Their disapproval no longer stings. Their silence no longer destabilizes. Their praise no longer intoxicates. What's left is their discomfort with your freedom, their fear of our clarity, and their frustration that the game they've played no longer works. You know, there's a strange and disturbing phenomenon that many people encounter but few dare to name. It's the liberal. That's not just some pop psychology buzzword. I'm talking about the genuine manipulator, the pathological liar. Back in a minute. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you're not neutral and that the government has no rights.